Good morning, everyone. I am Joe Kovacic, and I work in the DISA Emerging Technology Directorate. I'd like to welcome you to today's technical exchange meeting. Kiteworks will be presenting its enterprise content firewall in today's session. Need to go over some administrative items before we get started. First, please mute your DoD 365 Microsoft Teams sessions. Second, this session is being recorded to allow future scrutiny of the presented capability by members of DISA and the DoD community. Third, this is a public forum, so no proprietary or sensitive information should be shared in this session. Fourth, we encourage questions during the session, so please use the raise hand function in the Teams menu to alert the presenters when you have a question. You can also enter your questions in the chat area at any time during the presentation. Questions will be addressed in the order they are received. I must provide the following full disclosure. This technical exchange meeting does not infer any intention by DISA or the DoD to enter into an acquisition, contract, purchase, or endorsement of the presented capability. This session is purely for informational purposes only. We do not control how session participants will proceed with the conveyed content. Access to the TEM video, slide deck, and other TEM artifacts will be made available through the National Security Innovation Network website, whose link is provided in the TEM session invitations each of you received. With that said, let us commence with the presentation. So over to you, Kiteworks.
Joe, thank you very much, and everybody, good morning. Appreciate your time. Kiteworks is a company out of Silicon Valley that's been around for about 21 years. We were formerly known as Accellion, and do have some very long-lasting relationships in the U.S. government as well as the commercial space and the global presence. We're going to talk today about closing the sensitive content communication risk management gap, which I'll kind of better define through some of the slides. And we are partnering with Abraham's Consulting, which is a woman-owned 8A services company, and are just excited over that partnership. And we'll get into kind of the mission area. Well, what is it that Kiteworks does, and how is it going to benefit my organization? Well, we really around ensuring regulatory compliance and effective manage risk around every send, share, receive, and save of sensitive content. So when I say sensitive content, that means a lot of things, especially in the U.S. government, and more so in the Department of Defense. We're really talking about unclassified sharing of data, really in line with CUI under the NIST 800-171, which Kiteworks maps very nicely to, and we will be providing future NIST reporting capabilities along with what we already do with HIPAA and GDPR, et cetera. So the problem that we really solve is providing visibility around the different various means that individuals share information outside of the organization with third parties. So, in today's world with cloud and the myriad of, Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, SharePoint Online, you have more than enough content sources out there. We are there to enable and even integrate into those content sources to provide a secure and compliant session, kind of really extending zero trust across every transaction is probably the best way to describe what it is that we do. So everybody knows Microsoft's probably, the email is probably the most popular way of sharing information. There's file transfer technologies out there. There's automation technologies that move files based on events. There's APIs where people are integrating into applications, creating workflow, automated workflows, et cetera. And then there's web forms where you can integrate that into a web for maybe anonymous whistleblower complaints. It could be filing an application. Could be just uploading your COVID test results, right? And then you're working with all kinds of outside organizations. It could be other agencies that you haven't established that level of trust, where you need a secure way and an auditable way to share information, and it's got to be easy, right? If it's not easy, then the end users will never adopt it. So what we're talking about here is really, in this slide, is really shown that if you could track how data moves through the organization over email, over the various protocols, SMTP, file sharing capabilities, automated methods, it would look a lot like this. So what is it that Kiteworks does to help solve that problem? So first of all, we unify the entire contact communication, or all the what we refer to contact communication channels, which are the means of sharing data that I just described. So unifying it is we do it all on the Kiteworks platform. We also provide a unified visibility for audit logs. Every means of communication, the audit log is speaking the same language. So those in the SOC that are getting it, maybe importing it into Splunk or some type of SIM capability, it makes their life easier. It gives a better visualization around what people are doing with data. So that's unification. So we track, we audit everything on the platform, and we're probably 99% of the time we win. The customer over is the visibility of the auditing of how we track the way data is moving across the application. And then control, we can put a myriad of different types of controls. You can do geofencing, whitelisting, blacklisting, the traditional stuff. You can also integrate Kiteworks into O365 or Outlook, and then you could write a policy maybe anytime somebody in contracts is sending something outside of the respective agency, it's run through Kiteworks. And then certainly we use FIPS 140-2, 256-bit encryption for data at rest, and then for data in motion, it's TLS, or the SSL capability. So this is just kind of summarizing what we do around the tracking and supporting of content communication channels. We recently bought a company called Totemo, which is a Swiss-based company that is about the same age, same maturity as Kiteworks, has a similar DNA of customers. Some of their customers have been around for almost the entire history of the company, a lot like us. It really supports a secure, or an automated secure mail gateway. So it really kind of rounds out our ability to track, control, and secure all communications, not only through our platform, but also through Microsoft. And then lastly, basically, you can deploy our software. It can be deployed on-premise. It can be deployed in your cloud instance, or we do have a FedRAMP version. It's FISMA moderate. Probably wouldn't apply to the Department of Defense. But the important thing there is that what differentiates our cloud offering versus the traditional multi-tenant offerings is that we're using in our FedRAMP environment the AWS EBS storage. That's kind of the high performance storage. We use it for two reasons. One, because of the performance. Secondly, is because it's dedicated to the customer. And then along with the encryption keys, nobody else has access to the customer's data but the customer, which is extremely important in this day and age with cyber attacks, with warrants being presented to a lot of the cloud providers. In our case with Kiteworks, it's a private cloud instance, and you are the only one that have access to the data. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Gray, who's my senior solutions architect, who will kind of walk you through some of the Kiteworks, some of the use cases, and we again appreciate your time. So Joe, just to stop sharing, do I just hit end show?
Yes.
All right. I just tried to take it from you. Did that work?
It didn't work.
You should be able just to take over the screen sharing. It's kind of a free for all.
Okay, I'll try one more time. I did that. All right, can you see my screen now?
It's the one with the map, Kiteworks browser.
Yep.
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So as Paul mentioned, really at the end of the day, we are a secure communications platform, and what we enable you to do is share your content, more specifically, share your sensitive content with the different agencies, partners, suppliers, customers, whoever that you do business with. And a big, in my eyes, really our offerings value proposition is kind of two-pronged. We try to make every send, share, receive as secure as possible, meaning we're encrypting everything, we're allowing you to apply policy on that, we're tracking absolutely everything, which I'll get to here in a second with this view. But we're also not sacrificing any of the ease of use that you might have in your enterprise applications, right? So you can still send emails from Outlook, or you can still operate in a folders environment that's similar to like a OneDrive, just with additional security features and functionality. So typically when I start off a demo, I like to start off in this map view because it does a good job of kind of allowing me to talk to that value proposition, right? So every single communication through any of the communication channels Paul mentioned, so whether it's a encrypted email, it's a folder you shared with someone with contract information, whether it's more automated file transfer, we track absolutely everything that's happening, and we do that in real time. So a big part of that is how do we then get that information to you? So we give you this CISO dashboard out of the box that allows you to kind of drill into different sends and receives. Right now I'm looking at all the uploads and downloads going on our system over the last 30 days. And this is just our demo site, but I could come into any of these arrows and say, okay, who's downloading information to Greenwich, Connecticut, right? And I could see the date and time that happened. I could see the individual user, the client, which would be the communication channel, file name, file size, what's the IP address, right? And so you get this picture of where all my sensitive content's going. And that's really important from a incident response perspective and a security perspective to have that information, right? To comply with XYZ regulations. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through the demo and I show you the actual end user functionality, that we are tracking everything. And I think I'll be able to speak to a lot of the security functionality as we go through things. So jumping to the end user view, and anyone feel free to jump in if you have questions, or if there are any in the chat, please let me know. So this is what the login page would look like from the end user view. As Paul mentioned, the site is flexible in terms of deployment, meaning you can deploy it on premise, you can deploy it in your cloud environment, or we have hosted options where we could host it for you. And we have more specifically a FedRAMP hosted option, which is popular in the government sector. Regardless of that, the way the site works is it's made available over the web. This URL can be customized, and then you basically have to log in, right? And anywhere you see the word Kiteworks, you can completely rebrand the site and make it look like it's part of your own infrastructure. So you can put in DISA or DOD or DHS or whatever agency you work for. And then as Paul mentioned, we try to enforce a zero trust framework on everyone accessing the content, meaning you don't trust the person coming in and they need to verify they are who they say they are. So typically the way we do that for an internal user perspective is we'll integrate with your Active Directory or through LDAP or a single sign-on tool. We also support multi-factor authentication via like PIV, CAC cards, or just more generically like Google, Microsoft Authenticator, things like that. So in our demo site, I'm actually just using our demo ADFS instance of single sign-on, but it could theoretically be anything. We work with all the major providers. And then once you're really into the platform, it is extremely easy to use. It is a file sharing platform, right? So I'll try to step through some of the different communication channels just to give you a general idea of what you can do in the platform. But first and foremost, one of our more popular features is just being able to share files, right? So I can come, and I'll circle back on these other icons here in a minute, but I can go into Kiteworks. Here are all my folders. I'll create a folder called example folder. And then there's different settings and policy I can begin to set around the folders and information I upload to the site. So first and foremost, do I want this content to live out there forever? And I'll just mention all of these features can be set at the admin level from the top down, apply them to specific user groups depending on how your setup is architected. But for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to have this expire today. But I could completely customize that if I wanted to. And I'll just call it example folder too, because I already have one apparently. So here's my folder, right? First step would be to come in and upload files. So I come in, find the documents I want to upload them, right? And there's a lot that goes on the back end from a security perspective, where we're encrypting absolutely everything in transit and at rest. We're scanning files for viruses. We also can do an integration with a data loss prevention tool if you'd like, or advanced threat protection tool for scanning for malware to kind of really shore up and secure the content that's entering and leaving the system. Once in here, I have all my files, but right now, as you see on the right, I am the only one who can actually see these files. So as the owner of the folder, it's actually on me to define who has access to these files and what access they have, right? So I could come in, I'll just put in Gmail as an example. And so right now, when I hit invite, it's going to go to my Gmail account in the form of a link. And then similar to the way I had to log in from an internal user perspective, when I get that link, I will have to create a username and password. The username would just be my email address, so really just create a password. And then you can also have them the external users have to do multi-factor authentication as well to access the content. In addition to that, I also set up what access you have to that content, right? So I can make you a collaborator, meaning you can upload, you can download, you can edit. I can make you download only, meaning you can come in and you can just download files, but you can't really edit anything or upload your own. Or at its most restrictive level, I can make you a viewer, meaning you can come in and you can view the content, but it's watermarked. You can't upload, you can't download, you can't edit it. It kind of is what it is. And if you were to try to take a screenshot, your IP address, your email address would be like splashed across that document. So you could kind of trace back who's accessing that content, so to speak. So I hit invite. That's going to go to my Gmail account, which I have up. Right, so this is what the link would actually look like. Again, Kiteworks can be rebranded. And if I wanted to access that, I would just click access folder and jump through the steps of actually accessing the document. So log in quickly here. I think I've already created an account for this, so it's not actually going to show me my Gmail account. So it's not going to actually show the password setup process, but you'll see we do have two-factor authentication set up in here via email, but that could be text message or Google or Microsoft Authenticator. So I'm just going to grab this passcode. Copy that. And then, so once I'm in, I'll really only have access to the content that has been shared with me. And you'll see that I don't have an option to invite. I really speak, and that's the extent of my access. If I jump back to the view where I'm the actual owner of the folder, right, I could come in here. I can download a document. I can edit documents, right? So if you use Office, you can edit locally in Excel, but we also support their online editor, so we can make updates, add, remove kind of information, and it'll all sync back to the folder and create a new version, things like that. So I'll just update some of these ratings. See, it saves back here. And if I close this out, I'll have a new version in this folder. And what's really nice about this too is we don't just kind of restrict the end users or not allow them to see what's going on. They have access to their own audit trails as well, where I could actually come in and see all of the activity going on with my folder in real time as it happens, right? So I could see I created the folder, I added these files, Here's me inviting my Gmail account. I downloaded a file. I added a new version to this file. So we obviously consolidate all of these logs and roll them up to the top level and allow you to export them off the system to a tool like Splunk or QRadar, whatever SIM you might be using. But we also recognize that end users might want that information as well. One last thing, in the folders environment, I can also request a file. And what's nice about this is I can request a file from someone and I can make it so they don't necessarily have to authenticate it if I don't want them to. And really the use case there is I have files I need from someone, I need it sent securely, and I don't necessarily want to make it difficult on them. So I can come in and I'll say, all right, here's the contract document, please fill this out. This link's available for a week. You're allowed to upload one document, right? And I hit send. Jumping back to that Gmail example, being the end user, right? I could come in, click on that link to upload. And what's nice about this is I can see the one document they allowed me to see. I can upload a file, right? I'll just put this one. And I'm done, right? So it's just an easy way to get information from someone if you choose to do it that way. Rounding out the file sharing view. So when we started out, I really was just working in this the Kiteworks application. One other nice feature that's available is we recognize a lot of our clients have repositories, right? And they're storing content in multiple places. Often it could be on premise, it could be in the cloud. We can operate as a rip and replace of some of these tools if needed, but more often than not, we integrate with them. And really the use case there would be, I can say I'm storing all my content in like a SharePoint on premise, right? I can basically come into SharePoint and I can copy files into Kiteworks, make them available, and they'll be locked in SharePoint, right? Collaborate on them with an external party, and then check them back into SharePoint. So really, we can operate as kind of a layer of insulation or an extension to your internal file shares. And a lot of people will turn off external sharing out of those and allow them only to be shared through Kiteworks, if that makes sense. So we can kind of be an extension or an additional kind of layer on top of the applications where you're storing all your content. And that's similar to email as well, right? So we allow you to come into Kiteworks. I can compose an email, right? I can set policies on that email and hit send, right? But we recognize a lot of our clients might be using Outlook or using another email client to send information. So what's really nice is I can actually come in, and I'm just going to show you the Outlook plugin because the functionality is exactly the same. But I can come into Outlook and send an email and have it go directly through Kiteworks. So I'll type up an email. And as I'm doing this, one thing to mention that's really big is the platform itself. As Paul mentioned, it's been around 20 years. And a big part of our product offering before we really got focused on security 7 or 8 years ago was uploading large files. So you can send upwards of 16 terabytes using the system. So massive amounts of information that you can't normally send over email. That is all doable in a massive use case, especially when it comes to sending information through Outlook. So anyways, back to the email use case, right? I can come in to my email client. Right now I've typed out my email, but I can't, right now if I hit send, it's going to go through my Exchange server, it's going to go through Outlook. To send it securely through Kiteworks, all I do is click this button. It's going to, again, generate a link where all my Gmail account's going to see is a link to access the contents of this message. And I can set policies around that link, right? So I can say, hey, this link's available for the next 2 weeks. I want notifications when the attachments are about to expire, so I can make an extension there, notify me when attachments are downloaded. We also can like send content as view only. But I hit send and it's going to go through Kiteworks. And so all you would see in the actual send mailbox is just a link to that email. So I can actually come in and let's see, it's still being sent. So here's the email I just sent. Again, it's a link. You click on that link to then access the content. So a really easy way to share sensitive content directly through Outlook. And one thing that's really nice about this is it doesn't necessarily have to even be a manual process. A lot of our clients will set up policies around secure sending procedures. Like as an example, our legal team, anytime they send an attachment, the plugin will automatically pick that up, send it through email, or send it through Kiteworks and track it, encrypt it, all that type of thing. You could also link into like Azure Information Protection or Titus classification tags to say, hey, this information has controlled unclassified information, or this file has controlled unclassified information routed through Kiteworks instead of sending it through the less secure Exchange environment. So it's really useful in that regard. And then from a recipient perspective, if you do have the plugin, what's nice is you can actually render the contents of this message in Outlook if you choose to do so. So the internal users or those that do have the attachment can just read the contents of the message, even though this lives in Kiteworks and isn't actually in your Outlook environment or Exchange environment at all. I can download the file. I can also track the message, right? So same thing with the folders. We give our end users the ability to see what's going on with their messages and actually see who's interacting with it, and say you sent it to the wrong person or something, you can pull it back. And one thing I'll mention, Paul did mention the acquisition we just had with Totemo. Totemo is similar to this workflow, but different in that they are strictly a email gateway or email encryption tool. And unfortunately, I don't have a way to demo that for you yet, but we're happy to have a follow-up conversation. But really the difference there is the email encryption gateway would sit in your email flow. There would be no concept of a plugin, and it would allow you to encrypt all of your messages or certain messages based on policies that you set up, similar to the policies I just mentioned for our plugin, but much more robust. And it would allow you to kind of encrypt and secure all of your inbound and outbound email flow. So, and what's nice about that is, one, it's going to help you handle all your inbound email as well, where this is more so just sending files securely out of your environment. It's going to encrypt all that, but it's agentless, right? There's no concept of a plugin, so it would just kind of intercept the email and route it based on the policy you set up. So we're really excited about that functionality. Any questions to this point? I haven't looked at the chat, but I can check. It doesn't look like there's anything. Okay. So rounding out the conversation here, we really discussed 3 or so communication channels to this point. I'll try to go through a couple other ones. One easy low-hanging fruit is we have the ability to create basic forms where you could post this link on your website or create a form that you use to ingest information. And essentially what it'll do is it'll generate an email on the tool, encrypt everything, track everything. But you could put this on your website. For one example is like a lot of the offices of Inspector General use this for like whistleblower complaints, right? You could use this as a link to get your whistleblower complaint, attach documents, hit send, and we can encrypt and secure and track all of that information. There's a mobile application for if you have employees on the road, or you need people that are off site. Maybe, I don't know, if it's like the military as an example, you have people on base and they need to upload designs or send information securely. There's mobile apps that allow for that type of interaction. And then the big ones are really centered around automation. So we offer SFTP. We offer APIs, which would essentially allow you to use our application to kind of back end any systems that you have. So an example would be like the CDC uses us for like hundreds of custom applications where you can upload and download documents, and they really just use our APIs to secure the back end of those applications. And then the last piece, which I'll actually show you, is manage file transfer. So it kind of builds on both the SFTP module and the APIs to allow you to automate and secure your automated file transfers, right? So this tool is purpose built to allow you to schedule, monitor, and debug automated file transfers. And so what you're looking at here is just a monitoring view of all of the automated file transfers we have set up to date on our demo system. But it probably looks like any other managed file transfer tool you've used. You have the job name, you have how many like successful or failed runs it has, the last run. And if I wanted to go in here and actually debug one of these, I could certainly do that. But just to show you how it works quickly, and it might make a little more sense, is the process is really two-pronged in terms of setting one of these up. First, I would set up what's called the connection, and really that's just point A and point B of the automated file transfer. So you'll see in here we have SFTP shares, we have SMB, so like network drives, we have S3 buckets, we have Accellion, which would be our just linking to Kiteworks folders. But what I would do is I would come in and I would create my connection to point A and point B. And this is one-time thing. If you want to connect to your Kiteworks, you just have to connect once and just use this connection string moving forward. So that's just done through this plus button here. And then from an automation perspective, you would just create a DAG or a workflow. And so I would come in and say, all right, this is my test example. I could come in and say, all right, I want this to run monthly at 12 a.m. That's fine. I want to send an email on failure to these email addresses. And then you pretty much customize what you want to happen. But say Kiteworks is the starting point of your flow, and that's where you store all your documents. You could say, all right, I want to download files from Kiteworks, input that connection ID in the actual folder that you want to link to in Kiteworks. And I say, okay, take that. I then want to manipulate it in some way, right? So I could put in like a custom node to manipulate it. And I'm not going to get too much into that for the purpose of the demo, but you can rename, you can move, you can mess around with documents, and then I can take those documents and I can upload them to another Kiteworks folder. I can upload them to an SFTP site. I can upload them to a SMB share or box as an example. So there's a bunch of different options here, and these are only going to expand over time, but I would just kind of connect these and create my flow. And then last step is just to schedule it. So I would hit submit. And then once that's done, it's going to show up in that DAGs view where I could then monitor that and look at it moving forward, so to speak. So I guess to summarize, at the end of the day, we are a secure content communication platform. And really what we're trying to do is enable our customers or give them the ability to share their sensitive content with the outside world. And the value proposition is kind of twofold. We're going to make it easy to use, and we're going to allow you for multiple ways to share content as you've seen here today. But there's also a huge value in allowing our end user, giving all our end users the security around all this, right? Everything's encrypted. Everything is scanned for viruses. You can set policies, as you've seen, around how long your content exists or who can access it and what way can they access this content. And then finally, right, there's the going back to kind of where I started, we allow you to track all that, right? So we track absolutely everything, whether it's an upload, a download, a send, a receive, what the IP address was, what the communication channel was. And so you have a full picture of where your sensitive content's going, who's accessing it, who's uploading it, who's downloading it, right? And just to kind of close the loop here, I'll go back to where we started. But if you start to consolidate all your different communications through us or use us for these things, you really have a full picture of where your content's going, which is huge, but it also allows you and enables you to do incident response much easier, right? Because instead of having 10, 20, 30, 100 different communication channels, if you start to just funnel them through Kiteworks, you're not only securing all that information, but you're getting an audit log that is normalized. It's a syslog that you can very easily make sense of. A send from our managed file transfer is the same as a send from an email, and you can kind of filter through that and make sense of that information. So with that, Paul, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I will open it up to questions and we can answer any questions you may have.
If anyone has any questions in the audience, please feel free to unmute and ask them verbally at this point. Thank you. Okay, there doesn't appear to be any questions from the audience. Does Kiteworks have any remarks they'd like to conclude on? Over.
Yeah, I think, Paul, do you want to say anything? I think I kind of summarized my my portion of the demo. I think the main thing just being we can help you in a multitude of ways. Typically it's use case driven. We will help you with like email encryption as an example, and then these other things kind of flow naturally after the fact. But yeah, just anytime you have sensitive information that you need to share outside of the agency and you want to be NIST compliant, or you want to have that audit trail or have that encryption, definitely give us a call, and we're happy to work with you all. We'll get those slides out at the end of this to you all. But yeah, just reach out to Paul or myself, and we can schedule a conversation to have a more in-depth deep dive and address your use cases specifically.
Do you have a contact slide you can post on the screen from your slide deck? Over.
We do.
So on the back, can you guys hear me? This is Angela. I guess not.
Angela?
Yeah, that's me on the final slide. Can you go to the slide with the contact information? This is Angela with Abraham's Consulting. I didn't get a chance to speak to the slide that has my information, but essentially we partner with companies like Kiteworks to bring these solutions to the federal, state, and local government. We are a women-owned small business, an 8A, and so if you have any further interest in the Kiteworks solution that is presented here, you'd be reaching out to me, and I would coordinate with the team to make sure it happens. Thank you for this opportunity, by the way, to present. I'm not sure, is Paul still there? Guess not. But thank you again, and my information is on the slide. My number is 718-979-1371. It has 1571, but it's actually 1371. Thank you so much.
Okay, this is Joe Kovacic again. Just like to thank everyone for participating in this session. I'd like to thank Kiteworks for coming in today and presenting. I did not receive a copy of the slide deck. Once I receive that, I will post it on the National Security Innovation Network website, whose link was provided in the invitation that you received. So it will be posted there as soon as I get the slide deck. And again, within that slide deck, there is contact information if you have further interest in exploring this technology. So again, thank you, everyone. I wish you all a wonderful day. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.